Matrix talk. Today, we're going to really get into pretty quickly the benevolently brutal analysis of people in the news. In the meantime, you can chat over in the lower right. If you're on a computer and you can chat, you can follow us in the upper right, and you can click the large green button right below Phil and I and buy something from us because, by gosh, that keeps us in business. Yay.
Yes.
But I don't want to, I know YouTube's watching, so I don't want to delay.
Right.
I'm a YouTube watcher, and I don't like it when people beat around the bush. But we're going to show you how to do it.
Jump right in.
We're going to have a matrix up. Phil's going to show it. It's going to have approach over on the right, and it's going to have avoidance over on the left.
Yep.
And that's the matrix. And so a little bit more technically speaking, that's the how you label the right and the left lines. And you'll see it. There's approach and avoid. Up at the top is your senses, and we're going to really use those today. Down at the bottom is mind. Okay. And we're going to use those, and we're going to look at celebrities in the news from a benevolently brutal way. Okay. And so benevolent means we're being kind. We're not going to disrespect people.
Nope.
We're being respectful, and so it's not like we're going to take some characters and assassinate them or anything, nor build them up or anything else. We're going to look at them. Is how we're going to do this. So my suggestions, if you wanted to play this game, would be to bring up a clip, a news clip, or turn on the news, but instantaneously turn off the volume. Mute that baby right in the beginning. Mute it. That's going to be the best way to practice this. Okay. So with it muted, now you're in the wonderful world of simply using your eyes, because you're not using your ears, you're using your eyes to observe behavior. And so now you're going to see whatever the person's doing. You know, they're probably either standing there, sitting there, walking, possibly running.
Their mouths could be moving.
Right. You could say, oh, I can see their mouth moving. I'm pretty sure they're talking. You could see that. You may not hear it, but you could see it. So you're just looking at literally their behaviors and what you can see. You're looking at it. So whatever they're doing, you know, maybe a celebrity basketball player. So you're watching them play basketball. And you would say, there they are. They're playing basketball. If you want to just get into dribbling, shooting, that kind of stuff, fine. So there we go. So now that you have that in place, now you're square in the middle. It's just they're doing a behavior. And now you're going to put on you are going to do an analysis here a little bit. And what that analysis is you're going to say, that looks like an approach behavior, or that looks like an avoidance behavior. And let us explain what we mean by that. Mm-hmm. Approach is what you do when you do stuff to approach, in particular, who's important to you, so loved ones and such. And you might be approaching what's important to you, like your job, money, that kind of stuff. So it's approach, and that's literally it. You're moving toward it. You're approaching it. Okay. On the other hand, the avoidance side is really, folks, you're avoiding uncomfortable feelings, what Phil and I call yucky feelings. So if fear is showing up, you do a behavior to reduce the fear. And if it works, you'll keep doing that behavior. If you're angry, you might yell or stomp your feet or something. And you can see that on a video. It's like, oh, that person looks like they're yelling and they're stomping their feet. And so you see that. And so with that in mind, you're looking at the person in silence and you're going, are they, if they are, if it seems like an approach to me, well, and remember, you're doing this in silence. So you're guessing, who or what's important to them. If they're doing that as an approach, they're talking or standing or sitting or walking or running or jumping or shooting or whatever, are they doing that as an approach? And what are they approaching? That is, who's important to them, what's important to them. And if you say, looks like an avoidance to me, it looks like they're avoiding, then you go, well, what feeling on the inside, what aversive thing on the inside is going on that they want to do that avoidance move. Now, I often give the example, you'll see somebody running like crazy and you can just tell they're avoiding. And you might go, well, just from pure behavior, it looks like they're running away from something that is frightening them. Maybe there's a dog behind them or a bee or something, whatever, and they're booking it. So you can see this stuff, folks. You can see it. And indeed, I might look on and I might see, a couple of folks making eyes at each other. Ooh, looks like approach to me. They either are important or they want to be important to each other, right?
Potential is there.
So they're doing that. So you can, and this nonverbal watching is a luxury that you can do nowadays. When I grew up, it was sort of hard to mute the TV set. You had to walk all the way across the room.
Oh yeah, turn that knob.
Yep. Now Phil was just talking about watching on YouTube.
Yes.
You can mute it.
Boom.
Your remote control usually has a good old mute. Just boom, mute it. And that's how I recommend to start this. Why? Once words get in the mix, this gets a lot tougher.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to practice your benevolently brutal analysis of people in the news. Now that's what we're saying. They're in the news, and since they're in the news, you can watch clips of them. I don't care who it is. They're in the news. maybe a chicken made a nest in their mailbox or something.
Yeah, right.
They're in the news. I don't really care why they're in the news. They're in the news, okay? But you might say, oh, I thought he was going to be talking about Taylor Swift or Donald Trump or somebody like that. Okay, they're in the news. Turn them on, get a clip going, mute it. Mute it as fast as you can, really. You got to mute it fast. And then notice their behaviors, and then you do that analysis. You ever done that, Phil?
You know what? I have done this.
Figured you had.
I did this years ago when Star Trek first came out.
Oh yeah, the 67 or what?
Yeah, I actually did exactly what you're saying, Kevin. I was going through my training as a psychologist and a counselor, and I came up with this idea. I'm going to turn the TV down, and I'm just going to watch what's going on in front of me. And then, I didn't know about the Matrix then, but I thought, and then I'm going to make some guesses as to what I think might be going on.
Yep. And that's what you're doing here. Now, it doesn't mean you're right or wrong.
No.
And you don't have to be right or wrong or anything. You're simply looking at somebody's behavior, going, geez, that looks like on the approach side of things. What might they be approaching? Or, gee, that looks like an avoidance thing. So what might they be avoiding? And you don't know.
No.
I'll let you in on a little secret. You can go ask them, and they may well they'll try and answer you truthfully, and they won't. They won't, because none of us really know all that's going on inside of us. So it's tough. It's
Yeah.
really tough. But nevertheless, that's what you're doing. Okay. Now, if we started off on mute, there's one logical next step: unmute. Now this is where things really get wild. Okay. Because now they're probably going to be saying words. They're not going to make the news very long without somebody sticking a microphone in front of them and saying, "How do you feel?" or something.
Oh, yeah.
You know, their house has just been torn up by a tornado. How do you feel? Brilliant newscasters like that. But anyway, they're going to ask it, and the person's going to talk. Now, with that language, his words coming out, you're going to listen to the words, and same analysis, no different. It's just now you're listening to words, and you're going, okay, are those words meant to approach who or what's important to them? Or are those words avoidance of yucky feelings on the inside of them? And why it's brutal, folks, is because while there are some mixes, usually it's one or the other.
Yeah.
That's it. They're approaching or they're avoiding. So a lot of it, I'll be honest with you, a lot of the avoidance stuff comes down to avoiding fear.
Yep.
They're afraid something. They're afraid of something. And it's like me running to get away from the bee or whatever, you know. And I'm getting away.
Yeah.
I'm avoiding. Okay. Or you might see me doing stuff, you know, giving Phil a cup of coffee or
Oh,
something.
yes.
Oh, that looks like approach, right?
Yeah.
And so, but now, but instead I'm saying, I'm saying something like this. I guess I need to say words. Say, hey,
Yeah.
Phil, would you like?
Here's a nice cup of coffee for you, Phil.
Right. Would you like a cup of coffee? Right. And so, well, I don't know. That sounds like an approach. There we go. Like that. So now you're doing that. So just with the words. Now I would recommend you only unmute it and get a very few words and then mute it again.
Yeah.
Phil and I cannot stress to you enough the power of words.
Oh, yeah. They'll grab you.
They will grab you. And by the way, the news only wants to grab you with those words. They want to grab your eyeballs.
They want your eyeballs and your ears.
And they want your eyeballs and your ears. So you'll watch the advertisements and buy what people are selling. I hate to be jaundiced, but that's it.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not really going to deny that either, because that's the business model.
Yeah, they'll agree.
And I'm not dissing on them. It's just that's the way it is. And so now most of the news outlets these days have sort of taken a side. So they're on the liberal side or the conservative side or whatever. And so they're targeting that niche of people, that bunch. So they're going to have things said on the news that fit one niche or the other. So that's why you want to really limit the number of words you unmute. Let a few words in and then stop them. Because you'll quickly get caught up in the story of the words. And then your analysis will be much more difficult.
Gets complicated.
It really will. So that's how you do this. This is how you do this benevolently brutal. Now, how is it benevolent? You're just assuming the best out of people.
Yeah.
You know? You just are. And you're going, well, there they are. They're up there doing that. And they're doing that to approach. And some of the stuff they're doing is to approach. And some of the stuff they're doing is to avoid, okay? And then same with the words. Some of the words they're using are to approach, and some of the words that they're using are to avoid. So that's the benevolent part. The brutal part is what I just said.
Yeah.
And here's the even more brutal part for the couple of people that have signed into this. If you do this, you will do it to yourself. Can't avoid it.
Nope.
So that's it. So if you want to look at people on the news from this benevolent approach versus avoidance look at things, that's what we invite you to do. And we've shown you how to do it. And we're not going to sit here and diss on anybody or sing anybody's praises or anything, because that's not what this is about. And, now, with that said, what life is about, I think, is all of us humans getting together for, to make things work, get things working, right? Work. And you say, well, work for what? Well, get some people together and ask them, what's our shared purpose? What are we working for together? Okay. And then from that level of analysis, that makes it a lot easier to look at people's behaviors and say, well, are those behaviors working, whether they be approach or avoidance? Are they working to move us where we want to go, or are they not working? You can look at it from that point of view. So, but that requires that you have a conversation with people about what's the shared purpose. That's the biggie. What's the shared purpose? So, Phil's writing something down.
Oh, I'm filling it out.
There we go. And so, once again, we're not going to break off into judging people one way or another, looking at people in the news, saying how much we agree with them or disagree with them. That comes right out of our minds.
Yeah.
And once you start getting that heavily involved, you're not going to be doing a very benevolent analysis of folks. It just doesn't work very well that way. So what's this for? Well, it's sort of, we're going to live the illusion that we can separate our minds from our senses. Okay. And notice, anybody listening to me, I said that's an illusion. I'm not saying that will really happen, because it's not. Because we know that those two are working together all the time. They don't.
Inseparable.
Right. Your senses instantaneously impact your mind, and your mind instantaneously impacts your senses. You say, well, why is that important? You may have heard that eyewitness testimony is actually very poor. That's why. Because we don't look at scenes just as if our eyes were a video camera. We look at scenes based on our internal state. So your eyewitness testimony could change with how you feel, whether you have a cold or not.
Time of day, whether you're hungry or tired.
Maybe you did just watch some news clips
out
your door and you saw something happen. Those news clips that you watched are going to influence how you see and certainly how you report the eyewitness testimony. Now, I know courts still really love eyewitness testimony, but courts are often, they're always reminded now that eyewitness testimony sucks. It really does. I mean, you can get a bunch of very, very honest people that witness a car accident,
quite sincere in their retelling of the story.
Oh yeah, so a truck hits a car. Great. What color truck was it? 10 different people, 10 different colors, pretty well. Yeah. You would think on just a detail like that they'd get right. They don't.
Nope.
Well, okay, what color was the car? Same problem. You know, like there's all this smorgasbord of different colors that people will say. Probably based on the color of car they used to have, or their mom used to have, or their dad used to have. And so that's why I say it's an illusion that you can separate your senses in your mind. However, it's a worthy thing to do the illusion. That's it. That's our point, is that the more that you say, well, at least I'm going to make a good stab at seeing reality.
Yes.
Seeing things for as they are. The way you help yourself do that is you turn off the sound on the TV for a little while and just watch behaviors. That'll help some. Get you a little bit more grounded in the reality of your senses. Then if you just listen to a few words and then turn it back off, you have a better chance of saying, well, those words, were they meant to approach? Were they meant to avoid? What were they trying to do, those words? And don't take the analysis any further than that. There's no reason to.
Yeah, it's simple analysis here.
Right, just keep it with that.
Very simple.
But Phil and I have done this a lot of years now.
Right.
God darn, it's going to get to be 20 pretty soon.
It's been quite a while.
And of just doing this analysis using that diagram.
Yeah.
And the simpler, the better.
Yep.
It works out.
Yeah, and toward that end, Patrick actually typed in here, Kevin, that topic. Notice the last few webinars, you've said approach avoid rather than satisfaction relief or toward away. Is there a reason for that? Well, hopefully by now we've explained that, why we're doing that way. And
the reason, and I will answer you very directly. The right side of the matrix is based on a behavioral principle that most people learn in high school, and that is positive reinforcement, meaning you approach food, you approach a mate, and you get it. And
stuff.
You get Hershey's Kisses and stuff, and that's a reward, right? That's a reward. It's a positive reinforcement. You've got that. So where on the left-hand side, that's based on what's known as negative reinforcement. And that's a question that many people get wrong on the test. They think that's the same as punishment, but it's not. A negative reinforcer is when you remove what's it called, an aversive stimulus.
Yes. Or remove yourself from the aversive stimulus.
Right. So what you're doing in this case is like, something is frightening me. I run away, the fear level goes down, and that's reinforcing.
Yeah, I like that.
And I'll more than likely run again.
Yep.
Because that behavior was reinforced by that. So,
or we would say that behavior works.
Right. So that gets shortened up sort of in a motivational way of talking about this to approach. So I approach positive reinforcement and I avoid yucky stuff. I don't avoid negative reinforcement. I avoid yucky stuff. And that's literally what we all do. So hunger shows up. We don't like hunger.
Yep.
We eat. So actually that eating wasn't an approach. That eating initially was an avoidance behavior, an avoidance of hunger. And you get reinforced for it. Now, the great thing there is you also might get something very tasty that you approach. You might be eating dinner with your loved ones and stuff like that, and that gets mixed in as well. So that's why we change it. Now, a long time ago, we changed it. We used to say toward and away because it was sort of story form. But then people took it and said, "Oh, they're talking about moving away from your values." Obviously, from what I just said, no.
Nope.
That's not what it's about at all. It's about doing behaviors to reduce aversive stimuli, avoid yucky inside stuff. That's a way of saying that. So that's why. So you'll see whatever words that we use are to get back to that basic principle.
Pointing back to those two things.
Here's the brutality of it, Patrick. That's brutal.
Yeah.
To look at yourself and start looking at your own behaviors
Yes.
in terms of that stark reality of approach and avoid. It's a brutally stark analysis of your own behaviors. It starts now, and what we're doing here, you can do it to look at other people.
Yeah.
But
Like that.
it'll never stay there. You'll instantly start doing it to yourself.
You apply it to you.
And we're not saying great stuff happens with this or bad stuff happens or anything. It's just a way of looking at things, a way of looking at human behavior, your own human behavior, other people's behavior, just a way of looking at it. Why is it important? Because it strips away the story. That's why. And this is away from, so ACT is based on relational frame theory, which basically means you're doing all kinds of stuff in life to either approach or avoid words. Forget reality. All of that reality-based stuff that you might have been doing when you were 1 to 2 years old has gotten transformed into language. And now you're doing all kinds of behaviors to approach language and avoid language. That's what RFC points out, that language internalizes the world. And so you can sit in your chair in your living room and have a very rich approach and avoidance life all in your head, right? So to shut it off, our point about hitting the mute button, well, you're muting your own button. It's easier just to shut up. Instead of getting into fancy ways of diffusing, which is called in the ACT world, it's called
eliminate the inputs temporarily.
We're just turning it off. But you can't do it with your own head, by the way. It won't shut off.
Boy, oh boy, I wish I had an off button.
It won't shut, yeah, click, click, click. Shut that sucker off, but it won't shut off. But your TV will.
Oh, yeah.
Boom, mute. All right, it's silent. And now you can watch these other people in silence. But you can't watch yourself in silence because you got this running dialogue. I am doing this for this, and I am doing this for that. Da, 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 da. But the closer you get to trying to look at your own behavior and really be honest with yourself. I'm approaching, I'm avoiding. The brutal part is the brutal honesty of it. That's what you're getting at, the brutal honesty of it. So you might look at behavior and say, oh, that looks like a used car salesman behavior. I think they're trying to get money from me. Now, but you say, but maybe they're poor, so they're trying to avoid being poor.
Yeah.
Or maybe they really love money and it's very important to them, so they're approaching money.
Words you call.
Once again, I'm not going to paint used car salesmen all with the same brush. I don't know, but I can pretty well see in a video. Most of us can picture what a used car salesman looks like. The behaviors of one. That's what you're doing. You're shutting out so when you mute your TV and watch other people's behaviors, it's as if you're muting your own mind. But you can't do. So I told you it wasn't reality. I'm not trying to say it is, but
It's amazing.
it's worthy exercise.
Yeah.
And me and a few thousand other people say so. So it's a
Yeah.
worthy exercise.
It is worthy. Interesting things happen when you do this.
Now, if you start to, you'll find yourself probably wanting to avoid this. Why would somebody want to avoid this? I know
Any-
some of those.
Anybody care to take a stab at
Okay, I'll give you a hint. If it's a void, down below there's something yucky. Okay. And we already know lots of people avoid doing this. They've told us they avoid
Oh, yeah. They'll look right at it and go, oh, I don't want nothing to do with that.
They avoid it. So what might they be avoiding? What yucky, I'll make it more clear. What yucky feeling might they be avoiding by not doing this? Saying, oop, I've seen that, put that away. I don't want to look at my life that way. What are they avoiding? Nobody's gonna try. There's not very many people on.
Yeah, just a few.
Oh, come on. Fear.
It's up there.
Fear, messing up, all of that. Yes.
And Jackie, yes. Yeah, you got it. Sadness, thoughts, I'm a failure. Right.
So let's just sum it up as yuckiness. So to avoid the yuckiness, you put it away. You don't do it because it's a brutal way of looking at yourself. It's a brutal way of looking at other people. It's just also very kind and benevolent. It doesn't, the brutal is in just the simplicity, the starkness of it. That's only the brutal part. It's not that you're purposely being brutal. It's just by its very nature brutal. It's just
looking.
You just look at yourself and look at what you're doing. And sometimes you got to take a deep breath. Even I've been, there's a lot, folks, and I got to take a deep breath. Hang in there.
It gives you pause. It gives you pause.
Gives you pause. What? Oh, my clients are often cross that I can't. Magic. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what they come for. That's the deal. They show up and you're supposed to wave your magic wand.
Got the eraser, you're going to get rid of it.
And that's the mechanistic deal that's been set up for talk therapy.
We talked about programming earlier today, Kevin. That's
That's the programming, right? You know where I got that from, Phil? First episode of True Detective. McConaughey is doing his pessimist philosophy routine, and he talks about the programming. So that's where I'm getting this.
See, when you say programming, I think of all of the programming, the instruction manual that we have been handed throughout life.
And that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
When he's given his character is talking, that's what he's talking about. The program.
Not that incomplete instruction manual.
Right. So the programming is I go to a therapist and they fix things.
And that's the purpose of being here. You're going to take this away from me.
I go, historically, it's usually traced back to penicillin. I guess a little bit before, but the biggie was penicillin because that was just magic, right?
Magic, yes.
You give somebody a pill and fixes them up. And so, man, we've been chasing that magic ever since. But it goes into even psychotherapy, which is you're supposed to fix it, right? And well, the research on that is not good, folks. It doesn't fix it. No,
nope,
it really doesn't. It doesn't. So, and I'm not saying, and we're not even well, philosophically speaking, ACT is not about fixing anything. Pragmatically speaking, they needed to make money, so they did ACT for depression and ACT for anxiety. We've even got stuff on our website that some people will click on it and help us pay the bills. But philosophically, nah, you're just looking at things from a point of view. And with that said, I've had a few thousand people come back and say, this is really helpful. The people who kept doing it, not the people who
That's the key. It's the practice part.
the people who said, I ain't practicing that. Got away from that.
And keep using the point of view. Not all the time, but enough.
It pops up enough that they start doing the hard thing to do. And what's
Yeah.
the hardest thing to do, Jackie? Oh, don't worry. I'll tell you. Change your behavior.
Change. Do something different.
It's easy to think something different. That's easy. You know what, Phil? I'm going to start exercising every day.
There you go. Don't you feel better already?
I feel better already.
Look a little. You just perked the whole thing. Yeah.
Notice how easy behavior change is when we're talking about it. and this is where the matrix comes in. No. You guys are going to watch, and you're going to see whether I'm
let yourself off the hook.
right.
Yeah.
And so, what's that? And learn to sit with those feelings that will show up. Yeah. And learn, and that's act. Learn to sit with the feelings. Learn to have the feelings.
Yeah. Learn how to.
It turns out
Your own
feelings. I mean, most of these feelings, like anxiety, depression, that kind of stuff, don't have to limit your behaviors whatsoever. I mean, physical pain and, nausea and vomiting and dizziness, well, of course they can limit your behaviors. Yeah, but the usual garden variety, I don't feel like it kind of stuff, and that doesn't need to have any effect at all on your behavior. And that's act. Act is accept the junk inside of you and do stuff in the service of who and what's important to you, essentially. Yeah. So it's this trick. So why this exercise of looking at celebrities, people in the news? Yeah, it didn't have to be celebrities, anybody. As I said, the person who has a chicken in their mailbox, they make the news. But you just look at them. You just notice, is it approach? Is it avoidance? And pretty soon, yes, you will notice now, approach avoidance. Now, what kind of stuff on the inside of them are they approaching? What kind of stuff on the inside of them are they avoiding? And once you start doing that, now it goes inward. Now you're going to be looking at, well, I'm doing these behaviors. What kind of stuff in the inside of me am I approaching or avoiding? And that kind of brutal honesty as well. Let me see. Brutal honesty. Sit with the feelings. Notice it. But what you might just do, maybe, is you might start changing your behavior.
You might come all the way up here and start doing something.
And you'll start doing something different. Now, they say, it's got to be approach. No, you might do a more effective avoidance of something. You might do a more effective approach. You might not be effective or not effective. You'll just try something different. Behaving differently is behaving differently. So that's what you're up to doing with it. And also it's a cool way of looking at the news and not getting so darn caught up in it. Yes. And that's what I wanted to end on today, which is this is really an exercise in how to not let the news jerk you around. Because by definition, because the news people want to make money, they need to make money. They need to make money. We're in a capitalistic economy. So they need to make money to keep paying everybody. So I'm not dissing on them. But because they need to make money, they quickly fall into, well, let's do stuff, say stuff, show stuff that grabs eyeballs. Because the more eyeballs they got staring, the higher rates they can charge for advertising. How it works, it's a very simple model. So because of that, they're always going to be trying to tug at you
Yeah.
emotionally. And emotional people buy more. Also know that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
they're going to try and whip up your emotions and then get you to buy more. Okay, I can't change that.
Nope.
Nobody.
That's keep happening.
We can you could gripe about that till the cows come home. Ain't not going to change anything. What I can do is change my approach.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. I can put it on mute. Notice behaviors. Is it approach? Is it avoidance? What's if you want to use the actor's term? What's motivating?
Yeah.
You'll see in some movies, an actor or they'll be in the acting class, and they'll say, "Well, what's my motivation?"
Right.
But they're talking about, am I being motivated by love? Am I being motivated by fear? That kind of stuff. So that's all you're doing, but you're doing it first in silence, then with a few words, and then get about looking at yourself. You don't have to do it all the time. Nobody can do it all the time.
No.
Once every day or so,
The opportunity.
you might do it. So that's how you do it, and then you can have a fun time looking at people in the news. There's lots of them at any given time.
Ending supply.
Well, one, people are always doing stuff, so the news people are always going to have somebody to film doing stuff, and then two, the news people need to make money, so they're going to be coming up with stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And usually they want the juicy emotional stuff. That's what they want. I'm not kidding, folks. Emotional people buy more. They don't want, remember the old original PBS public broadcasting, and McNeil, Lair, and all that. And
The Lair hour still exists, I think.
really, and they had a very flat delivery.
Yeah. Monotonish.
Not exciting. No, NPR, forget about it. Not anymore.
No.
They discovered they needed to make some money to stay alive. So you don't get that anymore. So once again, it is what it is. Whatever. But this is a way you can get some distance from it and take a look at it. Have fun. Hope you have fun with it. Really, I do.
It's a very interesting thing to do.
I probably part of almost every day am watching at least a little bit of some videos with no sound on.
Mm.
I'm not kidding. I do it as a practice.
Yeah.
Something to do. It's easy to do too.
Yeah.
One click and they're muted.
Well, especially since, the way, at least the way my feed is it comes on muted. You have to unmute it first.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got that too.
So you just can sit there, take a couple of seconds and just kind of,
Yeah, just notice the approach and the avoidance.
Yeah, exactly. Right before your eyes.
If you want to look at something interesting and hear somebody interesting, a guy on YouTube, he has a channel called Soft White Underbelly.
Mm.
He's got millions of subscribers, so he does a lot better than us. But his thing is be very non-judgmental with everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody has had something happen. That person that cuts you off in traffic and you want to yell and cuss at and all that, there's something's happened to them in life that somehow led to that. Be sympathetic of what happens, what has happened with people. And that's a bit toward what this is doing. Just looking at people. We're not dissing them for their approach moves, and we're not dissing them for their avoidance moves. We're just noticing that they're human. And those two things are all animals, whether they be rats, pigeons, humans, whatever, the approach and avoidance thing. It only gets complicated after you add the words.
Right. Well, and we like to complicate things.
Now I hear music again.
That would be my wife playing the piano.
I like it. His wife's she's a pianist. Unlike me, I'm a guitar owner. I tune them like once a week. I do play a little bit. Not you would call me not a guitar player. I like watching guitar videos.
Oh,
And music's sort of cool a lot of times because you can listen to it and there's no words. So
yes.
that's pretty cool. It's emotional, but it's emotional
Oh, yeah.
from the notes, not the words. So anyway, everybody have a good time. A few people hung in there with us. A few people
Thanks for
watching
doing
our
it
video.
today.
We just showed this.
Yeah.
We were talking about this in our mastermind earlier today. We just show this to people. That's it. If you want to use it, great. If you don't, that's great too. Whatever. But we do like looking at people and being benevolently brutal in our look at ourselves and other people. There's something. Well, I get pleasantness out of it.
And it's a worthy thing to do for yourself and for the rest of
I wouldn't be doing it so much now, folks, if you're listening this long. If not, literally thousands of people have said, well, this is cool.
Yeah.
This is a cool way of looking at things. It's been helpful.
Yeah. That's why we show up every week, because
I keep showing it because people keep telling me it's helpful.
telling us that it's helpful and it's getting them where they want to go.
Yeah, so that's what we do.
Yeah.
So we'll be back. We'll think of another one. Maybe we'll. Who knows what we'll do? We never know. We let life show up, and then we do a
Observe.
We just be surfing along, riding the waves. Bye, everybody.
Have a nice weekend. Stay safe.
Yeah, be safe out there.